side of Gautam Brahman, who was confident in his incomplete knowledge despite his wisdom. The heavenly king Indra guided him to learn the ultimate truth under the preachings of Mahavir Bhagwan. This sequel narrates a famous event of Bhagwan Mahavir Swami, the 24th and the last Tirthankar who was born 566 BCE. He renounced the world at the age of 30 and after rigorous spiritual practices attained Keval Gyan, a state of absolute knowledge, at the age of 42. In this state, Mahavir Swami achieved infinite perceptions, understanding, knowing all without any ambiguity, and visible knowing to an infinite level. Nothing remained hidden from him. Upon obtaining the omniscient science, his voice transformed into a divine sound, known for its melodious and sweet tone. This divine sound, Divya Dhavani, could inspire anyone to listen repeatedly. However, it remained unintelligible to ordinary beings and could only be understood by a special class of disciples known as Gandhars, who were capable of interpreting and conveying its profound teachings to others. A good time has gone, the divine voice had not been heard, as there were no Gandhar available who could comprehend and communicate it. This caused concern in heaven, and King Indra, through his clairvoyance, discovered that Indrabhuti Gautam, a highly learned and proud Brahman, possessed the potential to become the Gandhar of Bhagwan Mahavir. However, Indrabhuti Gautam's arrogance made him believe that he was the most knowledgeable person on earth. The heavenly king Indra thoughtfully devised a plan to bring Indrabhuti Gautam into the circle of Bhagwan. Disguised as an old Brahman, he arrived at Indrabhuti's ashram and stood outside the classroom, waiting for the lesson to conclude, as instructed. "Old Brahman, what is your concern? And what do you seek?" asked Indrabhuti Gautam. The old man bowed respectfully and presented a question in the form of a shloka, seeking its meaning. Truthfully, Indrabhuti Gautam had never heard the phrase before and couldn't understand it. However, unwilling to admit his ignorance, he responded with pride, saying, "You don't know the meaning of such a simple phrase. Let me first teach your guru, as he clearly didn't teach you well. I want to see him immediately." The old Brahman led the way, and Indrabhuti Gautam followed in silence. As they approached the Samosran, the Brahman disappeared, leaving Indrabhuti to continue alone, unaware of the divine intervention. Upon seeing the Manstambh of the Samosran, a radiant pillar shining like the sun, capable of humbling anyone's pride, Indrabhuti's arrogance melted away. The once proud scholar was reduced to a state of humility, completely transformed by the sight of the brilliant pillar. Upon reaching the top of the Samosran Mount, Indrabhuti was overwhelmed by the beauty of the surroundings and the divine presence of Bhagwan, the guru of the old man who had brought him here. He felt as though he had lost his mental balance and stood frozen in awe. Mesmerized by Bhagwan, he removed all his clothes and posed as a naked monk. He pulled out his hair and appeared as a Muni. The theme view of the scene is represented in the given picture. He then laid on the floor and slid towards Bhagwan Mahavir Swami, who was seated at the top of Samosran, 4 inches above his golden stool under the Ashoka tree, floating in the air. Upon approaching Bhagwan, just a few steps below him, he bowed his head in reverence. As he looked at Bhagwan, he was instantly blessed with clairvoyant knowledge, also known as Avdhi Gyan. It was as if a part of Swami's divine energy had merged with him. Soon after, the designated Devas began calling people with melodious music that filled the Samosran. The functional systems and purposes of the Samosran were set in motion smoothly and appropriately. Indrabhuti Gautam realized the difference between two types of knowledge, one that is philosophical, based on personal thoughts and interpretations, and the other that is spiritual, grounded in absolute truth. In another instance, King Shrenik, a regular attendee of sermons, became curious about his next birth. One day, he asked what form his next birth would take. The answer he received was shocking: he would be born in the first hell. Disturbed by this prediction, he asked if there was any way to avoid such a fate. The reply was that it would be very difficult to change this outcome since he would have to experience it. However, the king pleaded, "Please tell me if there is any way, I will do my best to follow it." It was then explained to him, "There is a Chandal, a person of the lowest caste, in your kingdom who kills 100 buffaloes a day. If he refrains from killing for just one day, you will avoid this punishment." The king was relieved to hear that the remedy was so simple and believed it would not be difficult to achieve. However, despite the king's request, the Chandal was unwilling to stop the killings. The king then instructed his prime minister to tie the Chandal to a tree for 24 hours to prevent him from carrying out the slaughter. The prime minister followed these instructions. After the day passed, the king asked again, "Where will I go now in my next birth?" The answer remained unchanged: he would still be born in the first hell. Confused, the king asked, "But why, Swamiji? I had the Chandal tied up. He did not kill any buffaloes." The wise sage responded, "While the Chandal did not kill the buffaloes physically, he continued to perform the act in his mind. He imagined the buffaloes on his stomach and acted out their destruction with his hands. This was how he satisfied his desire to kill. Therefore, king, you could not truly stop his urge, even for a day." Daily, hundreds of thousands of people attended Bhagwan's sermons, and it was not easy to respond to all their questions. To understand more deeply, one could gaze into the mirror behind Bhagwan, which revealed the 7 stages of their life, including 3 previous births, the present life, 3 future births. Upon seeing Guru Swamiji, Indrabhuti Gautam's pride vanished instantly, and he realized the true workings of nature.